Hey everyone, this is Tracy with the Oasis for Natural Healing. So, by the way, happy Good Friday for anybody who celebrates Easter. So, wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about, is it Lyme or is it an autoimmune? And specifically with rheumatoid arthritis. So, autoimmune is basically, in Western medicine, the body is actually attacking itself. Your immune system is wonky, it's the enemy, it's going after the joint tissue, it's going after organs specifically, and your immune system is now your enemy. And Western medicine says that, it could be genetics or other things, but basically, yeah, we have to suppress the immune system. And let me ask you this. So why, and some people are not born with these symptoms, some people are, but why is it that, you go without these like chronic pain or MS symptoms, and all of a sudden, like one day, or it just seems like maybe it's a gradual thing, and like then all of a sudden it like hits you really hard, and you then now have these, maybe they were minor symptoms before, but now they've all of a sudden like, taken off with a vengeance, and you're getting them all the time. And you didn't have these symptoms, and then like literally out of nowhere you all of a sudden just developed all these symptoms, and you go to the doctor and all of a sudden you have an autoimmune disease, and the doctors don't have a reason why. And so let me ask you this, do you really think that your body woke up one morning and said, hey, let's not function today and let's start attacking ourselves? Do you really think that your body actually woke up one day and did that? Or do you think that there could be possibly something else going on inside of your body, that, and the immune system is actually on hyper overdrive trying to protect you? So your body was never designed to attack itself. Never. Your body wasn't designed to do that. Your body was actually designed to heal. Your body just doesn't wake up one morning and say, okay, I don't feel like functioning, and let's just destroy ourselves. No. If you cut your arm, what happens? When it's functioning optimally, let me tell you that when it's functioning optimally, when you cut your arm, what happens? Your body sends platelets to that injured area, and then you develop a scab. Okay, because those platelets, those blood cells start gluing together and they form a scab. Okay, your body will start constricting blood vessels. If you really cut yourself very severe or major arteries, your body will actually try to constrict blood vessels. Okay, so the body is actually trying to keep you alive. That's what it was designed to do. It's trying to heal you. It's trying to fix things, when your body can function optimally. Okay, so what causes the body to not function optimally? Lots of different things. Okay, lots of different things. So some of the things are heavy metals and heavy chemicals. Like, let's just face it, we live in a very, very polluted world. And the US is extremely polluted. We have allowed in our food supply, in our cleaning products, in our everyday cosmetics, what we do to the air and things like that. There are over 10,000 chemicals that are allowed in the US that are banned in Europe for a reason. Our food in the US, half of it is not even real food. We've now like modified everything, genetically modified, so that way it can withstand Monsanto and glyphosates and pesticides and herbicides and all these other things. So we have modified our foods so that way we can poison the foods, so that way bugs don't eat the crops. That sounds really healthy. And then we ingest these modified foods with a whole bunch of pesticides and glyphosates and all these other things. Okay. So this is one way. The other thing is parasites. Okay. So where do we get parasites from? Okay. Parasites are actually found, you can get them from any type of biting insect. So mosquitoes, spiders, biting flies, ticks, pretty much any biting insect. Those same biting insects can actually transmit Lyme disease and Lyme co-infection. Okay, so I don't know if you guys are in the area and you guys are or watching. If anybody's watching and you want to say hi, would love to hear from where you guys are at. But Lyme disease and Lyme co-infection, this is actually a really big thing, and we see this actually in my office quite a bit. So any biting insect can actually transmit Lyme and Lyme co-infection, and you do not, most of my patients have never had the bullseye rash, never. They never have had the high fevers, okay? So they have typically, again, any biting insect, and a lot of them are from mosquito bites. And Lyme co-infection is very, very common and actually hidden. It mimics a lot of diseases too. So rheumatoid arthritis is one of them. Lyme and Lyme co-infection. So co-infections are other, like, I don't mean biting insect bugs, but like bugs like bacterium and stuff. So parasites and things like that. So there is a parasite called Babesia, which is a Lyme co-infection. There is a bacterium called Ehrlichia. There is another bacterium which has parasite-like activity, which is Bartonella. And then there's the true Lyme infection, which is Borrelia, which is a bacterium called Borrelia. And they are transmitted by similar vectors, meaning insects. And that's why it's called a Lyme, that's why it's kind of called Lyme or Lyme co-infection. These bugs can cause, or these infections can cause a whole array and notorious for a whole slew of different symptoms that often look like other quote unquote diseases. Which brings me to another point. Is it really, do you have that disease, or is it actually Lyme that's not being diagnosed? Okay. So Lyme that's not being diagnosed can look like rheumatoid arthritis, can look like gut issues, can look like Bell's palsy, can look like plantar fasciitis. So these things are, anybody that I've treated that has had joint pain and inflammation, whether it's arthritis, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or any other thing, has always had either a Lyme or Lyme co-infection. Anytime. Okay. They can cause hormonal imbalances too. They can cause chronic fatigue and chronic headaches. So, well, and then a lot of patients will ask me, well, Tracy, why didn't it show up on my blood work? And that's a very, very good and valid question. So why didn't it? Well, two things. Number one is if you've been exposed and it's been a long time since you've been exposed, you are no longer going to have the antibodies anymore. So, or it's or you never produced the antibodies in the first place. Sometimes what happens is just like people who have had vaccines, and they've had the MMR or whatever, and they've had like one dose of MMR, and then they check for titer, which means they're checking to see if your body produced antibodies. And so some people don't produce antibodies. So then they give another MMR, and then they still don't produce antibodies, and then they give another one. Well, does it mean that you've never had the MMR vaccine, or your body just never produced the antibodies? Your body just never produced the antibodies. So this is why Lyme disease can sometimes go, it's very hard to detect, and it often goes undiagnosed. So I've seen people with MS also having Lyme or Lyme co-infection as the underlying cause of their autoimmune. Parasites are another one. So I had wound up, I actually almost had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease myself. And I had really bad, what's called atopic dermatitis. So it's a kind of mimics psoriasis, eczema, but they don't know the cause. So what they did for me was I had been to three different dermatologists, and they did a skin scraping and they found what's called eosinophils. Eosinophils is a type of white blood cell. Eosinophils is usually typically seen in one, parasitic infections or allergic reactions. So the doctor, the dermatologist at the time said, oh, well, you must be having an allergy to probably a chemical. So they turned around and did a skin patch test, and I had to walk around with like on different sections of my body, like over 10 chemicals, like on each section. Like I wound up, I think, with like close to 200 different chemicals all over my back. And guess what happened after a couple of days of wearing that? Nothing. No inflammation, like no skin irritation or whatever. So the doctor was like, well, then it's not allergies. You're not allergic to any chemicals. This must be an autoimmune disease. And I said, now, wait a minute. Now, eosinophils is also seen in parasitic infections. Could this be a parasite? And he goes, absolutely not. Parasites only happen in third world countries. Nonsense. So we see a lot of parasites causing a lot of issues as well. So is it the fact that the body is actually going at, like, attacking itself? Or do you think possibly that it could be going after something that has settled into an organ, gland, or tissue, like toxins, like Lyme, like parasites? And to me, that makes more sense than, oh, the body just decided to wake up and attack itself. And then people will ask me, well, Tracy, well, what about genetics? Okay. Well, it runs in my family, and, and it must be genetics. Well, let me ask you this about genetics. Okay. So a couple different things. Why is it that certain people, like certain families, can have the same gene, and why does one turn on while the other one doesn't? So that gene actually turns on, and so they develop that quote unquote disease that's associated with that particular gene or that gene mutation, and the other person doesn't. Do you think that possible exposure, environmental exposure, whether it's Lyme disease, whether it's toxins, whether it's radiation, like, or whatever, do you think that that can possibly trigger the turning on of that gene? Or do you think that if, it runs in the family, that maybe the whole entire family has been exposed to a certain thing, and that is turning on the gene itself? Is that one exposure, instead of it being necessarily passed down for generation or generation? Or here's another thing, is if toxins and parasites, I'm just throwing these out there just to get you guys thinking. So do you think that if toxins and parasites that are passed in utero, meaning when you're pregnant or when you decide to conceive, and so the father also plays a part in this, right? So his sperm has to be healthy and clean and not carry any toxins with it, which it can in the semen. It actually can. And the mom's home environment, meaning her body, has to be fairly clean too. Otherwise, you can pass these toxins in utero, meaning to the unborn child. So, and do you think that maybe if the mom was exposed to a certain toxin, or the dad was exposed to a certain toxin, and they decide to conceive, and they now pass these toxins in utero, now it's exposing that baby's genes to that toxin, and hence why you have a quote unquote genetic disease? Again, to me, it makes more sense that environmental exposures can trigger on certain diseases, rather than the body actually just turning around and waking up one day and saying, I don't feel like functioning. Because again, your body was never designed to attack itself. Your body was designed to heal. And so what we want to do, and a lot of my patients with autoimmune diseases actually have an underlying cause that is often missed by Western medicine practices. How many times does your doctor actually test for toxic overload in your body? Like all these different heavy metals, like mercury, like silver, like aluminum, like titanium. Does your doctor do that? Does your doctor check for acetates and acetones and all these heavy chemicals that you might have an overexposure? Does your doctor check for mold? Do you have mold in your system? Do you have parasites? And by the way, to check for parasites is very, very difficult, through traditional Western medicine testing. So what is the underlying cause? And most of your doctors, most traditional Western medicine doctors do not check for these things. But yet they're going to label you with an autoimmune disease. Does that really make sense to you? Because it sure as a family nurse practitioner does not make sense to me. Now, maybe 20 years ago, if you had talked to me 20 years ago, I would have said yes. Because I didn't know back then what I know now. Back then, I did not deal with the patients on a different level. So in every single one of my autoimmune patient cases, I've seen Lyme disease, parasites, and toxins, and mold. Parasites, Lyme, toxins, and mold. All of these things. Because it's usually not just one contributing factor. Usually it's multiple. And you get rid of that, and the autoimmune disease somehow magically clears up. Really? Because you never had an autoimmune disease in the first place, guys. Never. Like I said, your body was not designed to attack itself. Your body is actually trying to go after something in it that is causing illness, that is causing inflammation. That makes more sense to me than an autoimmune disease. I've dealt with it, and so have my patients. That's why I'm so passionate about this, because then what they do is, well, you can never get rid of this. You can never get rid of MS. You can never get rheumatoid arthritis. And we must give you an autoimmune medication. So do you guys even understand? I was talking with a patient earlier today, and I asked them, what does your medication mean? When I put you, if we put you on an autoimmune suppressant, what does that mean for you? What is an autoimmune suppressant? And she couldn't answer the question. So let me explain to you what an autoimmune suppressant medication is. It literally suppresses your immune system. So it stops your immune system from working. That's what an autoimmune suppressant does. So what does that look like to you? Well, what does the immune system do? It fights infection. It will kill off dead cells. It will turn around and eat cancer cells. So it will go, you have part of your immune system, it has scavenger cells, and it looks around for all of these different like dead cells, dead tissue, and it will start eating those dead tissues to keep you healthy, because dead cells are not good. They're not healthy. They decay and they cause other issues. So you have scavenger cells that will eat all of these things. They will look for cancer cells and they will eat the cancer cells. They look for viruses and they will eat the viruses. They will look for bacteria and they eat the bacteria. So when you take an autoimmune suppressant, you are literally suppressing your immune system, which means sepsis, which is an overall infection of the body. You are highly susceptible to getting sepsis, chronic infections, cancer, and all of these other things. So that's what an autoimmune suppressant does. It suppresses your immune system, and a lot of times you can get life-threatening illnesses and diseases because you're stopping your immune system from working, rather than handling the underlying cause of what's causing that autoimmune disease in the first place. So, and this is why when you go on to the when you listen to like all of these infomercials, like for like psoriasis and things like that, like Dupixent and all these other things. So you turn around and you see all these people like on the TV, like with really bad skin, and then all of a sudden, like, using digital things, their skin is clear and they're happy and they're using, this medication and blah blah blah, and you see them smiling. But then, so that gives you a visual effect. Oh, they're happy and all these other things. And then they quickly, at the end of the infomercial, see how good this is for marketing scam and for marketing, because but then quickly they run through all of the things. And if you die, like if you listen to it, you may die, or, you may develop a life-threatening illness and all these other things. Because what they're not mentioning is that these immune suppressants can kill you. And a lot of people do wind up with worsening symptoms, or in the long run, maybe not right away, but because it's suppressing the immune system and it's suppressing your organs. So many of your organs are needed for the immune system to work properly. So if it's going to suppress the immune system, what do you think else it's doing? It's suppressing other organs to function optimally. And then you wind up with different organ diseases as well. And now, because you have different, organ issues, now you need more medications on top of medications to handle the side effects from that one medication. And that's the rabbit hole that Western medicine has us go down. So again, my whole goal in this is to get people to kind of just think outside of the box and like, really, does this actually make sense? Does it make sense that my body just all of a sudden wants to attack itself? Not really. If you really stop and think about it, not really. Your body, otherwise we'd all be freaking dead. If your body was designed to attack itself and not heal, half of us wouldn't be alive. Like, we'd all be dead. I mean, if you really think about it. So, and again, it makes more sense that there's something inside of the body that's triggering the body to not function optimally, and that the body's trying to clean up, get rid of, but it's stuck. It doesn't know how. It needs help because, quite honestly, we've polluted our bodies far beyond whatever it was supposed to be able to handle. Your body was designed to detox. It was meant to do that, but not at the degree that we've been asking it to. So now it's stuck. There's an overabundance and it needs help. So things like milk thistle is really good for the liver to help draw things out, to get rid of parasites and Lyme and things like that. So sweet wormwood, clove bud, black walnut, ginger, echinacea. These are really good herbs that they support the immune system. So what we want to do is we want to give, and these can kill off Lyme, parasites, and things like that. So what we do in the office here, whether you're and believe it or not, we actually have in-person or virtual appointments too, but we look for the underlying cause. Why do you have your symptoms? And we use a non-invasive technique called quantum nutrition testing. And we actually can figure out a tailor-made program for the individual to help that individual, figure out the underlying causes and specifically what supplements your body actually needs. Now, there's tons of different protocols that you can do, which is better than not doing anything at all. So you can find parasite protocols, you can find Lyme protocols, you can find detoxing to get rid of toxins and heavy metals and heavy chemicals, which is fantastic. Great. It's a great way to start. And if that's something that you want to do, go for it. The one thing that I do skepticize about like doing protocols is when you do a protocol, that means that you are assuming that your body is like every other person's body, and that your body wants the same thing as your neighbor, your best friend, or whatever. That's what a protocol is. Everybody needs the same set of supplements, the same dose for the same length of period of time. And that's not necessarily the case. That's why some protocols work for some people and they don't for others. It's not maybe that the protocol was bad, but it might not be the right combination or even the right dose for that individual, because your body is unique. That's why I like quantum nutrition testing so much, because it literally takes the guesswork out of what your body actually wants and needs. And specifically how much too. So half of the time it's not even what the bottle says of the supplement. So I don't have my own supplements. I use several different companies that I trust. They're very meticulous about the ingredients, the quality of the ingredients, and you can't find them over the counter, because half of the over the counter, more than half of the over the counter stuff that you find, like at even Whole Foods and stuff, is actually bought out by big pharma, like Colgate and like all those things. So they're actually bought out by big pharma and like bigger companies that the ingredient. So that's like one thing. I used to love Garden of Life. I forgot what company bought them out though, but they were bought out. I used to love Garden of Life. I would tell like all of my patients, like a lot of my patients, like to go get Garden of Life, because I used to work, when I did, my Instagram just died. Well, my phone died because I have two things. So, oops. Well, oh well. So anyway, so I used to work in at an urgent care as a family medicine practitioner while I was doing holistic health part-time. So I actually worked both. And when I worked at the family urgent care, like I would recommend Garden of Life for a lot of my patients. I loved Garden of Life until I found out that they were bought by big pharma. Now their ingredient list didn't change, but I can't guarantee the quality of the ingredients now either. So just because the ingredient list didn't change, the quality is most likely different, because again, big pharma wants to save money, cut out things, and they're going to cut corners. So the companies that I use, you cannot find over the counter. These are physician grade formulas. I use Cellcore, love Cellcore. I use systemic formulas, and so Cellcore or systemic formulas and Alimentum Labs, they kind of join forces. So it's like 2 in 1 now, 2 companies under one umbrella. I love systemic formulas and Alimentum Labs. I love Standard Process and MediHerb. And then I also use a company called Energetics. And they're really good. They're really good homeopathic. They're really good for drainage. I love it for kiddos. They're easy for kiddos and small kids to take too. So love these companies. And so what we do is like, we can find out specifically the dose that the person actually needs. So it literally takes the guesswork out. So like a bottle might say, oh, take 2 a day. Your body might want 3, or maybe only wants 1. So, and there's a way using quantum nutrition testing that we can actually assess that and figure out exactly how much you actually need. And then we can also figure out like how long you want it, and for, how often. So maybe it's one capsule twice a day, or maybe it's 1 capsule in the evening, or maybe your body would be doing better with it 1 capsule in the morning instead of the evening. So it literally is a custom-made, tailor-made program for the individual. And what I love about this is, so we can find out which organs are functioning optimally, even if you have normal labs. I don't care about the blood work. Partly because when we do blood work, we're comparing you to you, or you to everybody else again. So, and it's an average. And just because as long as you fit somewhere in the middle, we deem you normal. But that doesn't mean it's normal for your body. What I love about this is we're comparing you to you, not you to anybody else. And so this is why, like, a lot of people will go to the doctor and sometimes they go, well, and that's what they did with me, well, I have all these symptoms. And the doctor goes, well, your blood work is fine. We don't know why you have your symptoms. It's either autoimmune or it must be your anxiety. Here, have a pill. So like for me, I actually had a hormonal imbalance. Okay, my thyroid, my adrenals, and my liver. Now, believe it or not, your liver actually is part of your endocrine system. It actually helps to get rid of old estrogen. It helps to regulate estrogen, thyroid hormones, and all these other things. So, and I had parasites in my liver. So, and I had really bad mood swings, especially right before my period. But I got diagnosed with bipolar instead. They said I was basically nuts in the head. And it wasn't. I had a hormonal imbalance, even though my labs were normal, because they were not normal for me. And once we handled the underlying cause, which was parasites and toxins in my liver, my thyroid was able to now function better. And my adrenal glands were able to function better, which meant my mood started improving, which meant that I was able to come off of my psychiatric medications too. So, that being said, if you would like to find out more information, and this is something that is kind of intrigues you a little bit, or see if that this can help you, then give us a call, 708-694-4092. We actually are having a special this evening, or till the end of April. Our consultation includes 2 appointments. Each appointment is an hour long. That's normally $250 for both appointments. This month till the end of April, you get it for $175 in total, not per each appointment, but in total. So for 2 hours of consultation time, 2 appointments, that's $175. If you have an HSA or FSA account, that does pay for office visits and supplements.